Well, we're back.
We're back. Another week.
Yeah, another week, and we're joined by the myth, the man, the legend himself, Jeremy Duvall, coming off his raffle stomping festivities in Rexburg, Idaho.
Thank you. I'm doing my best Felix Castro
Well,
calling in from the car impersonation.
yeah, you're doing a great job at that. So, well, Jeremy, maybe start us off with since that's probably the most recent thing on any of our agendas. Why don't we take a minute to talk about refugees of the old world?
Sure. So just got refugees of the. Sorry, can you guys hear me? Okay.
Beautiful.
Yes. Uh-oh. Did he just crash? All right.
Okay. So Refugees of the Old World happened this weekend in Rexburg, Idaho, run by hello?
Ben Stoddard?
Hello?
Yeah.
You're cutting it out.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm driving back from Reno now. So hopefully you guys can hear me. If not, just boot me and you can talk amongst yourselves. So
Okay.
Heading back from Refugees was this weekend in Rexburg, Idaho. Super fun tournament. A little bit of an interesting format, held on Friday night and Saturday instead of Saturday, Sunday. 2 games were Friday, 3 games Saturday. And while you're playing the tournament, you drop your lowest of your first 4 game scores. So as you're going, you're dropping your lowest score. And then once you go into the final round, your scores are locked in, and then the final round must count. So an interesting tournament, super fun, had a bunch of great games. And thankfully, I was able to win the tournament. So it was super fun.
Ooh, yeah, boy. Yeah. And so what kind of scoring system were they using, Jeremy?
Oh, so it's very interesting. It was kind of a wild. So the objectives had a certain amount of tournament points. So, for example, playing loot. So there are 3 tokens. Controlling a token at the end of the game would be worth 5 points. And then if you win a scenario, you get a bonus points. And then there was like 5 points for attrition. So the max points was 25, and it was based on how well you did in the scenario plus attrition. And then Ben also had these achievements were like throughout the tournament. So one was if you get a rear charge with a unit that does not have fly or nimble, you get bonus points. Or if we had a special character. If your special character did certain things throughout the tournament, you could get bonus points. So you were sort of keeping track of your side objectives in each round. So it was definitely a more flavorful scoring system than your standard, 15-5-10 sort of deal.
Yeah, Friday Saturday mix is interesting. That Friday Saturday thing seems weird at first, but I guess the circumstances are the store's not open on Sundays, and so they've got to do it on Friday and Saturday. So it makes for a very unique event.
Yeah, Rexburg, I guess, closes down on Sundays pretty much. So, and it's held at a game store. So, but they have a nice game store. There's plenty of space. We had 16 people, but they could easily fit 4 more tables. So, I mean, it could have had 25 plus ish there. But a lot of people came in from out of town, so super fun.
And this is the first tournament I've ever seen 2 Tyrells. We had Tyrell Brown and Tyrell Gordon. And just for good measure, we had a Tyler Schultz. So
that's got to be a world first.
That's got to be
world first, surely.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Unbelievable.
2 Tyrells and a Tyler.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
Jeremy,
16 players.
Yeah, that's nice. Jeremy, I've got a message for you from Tom Annis because you can't see it. And he said, you're welcome for all the UB butt whoopings.
That's funny. Yeah. Well, it's funny, looking at the score, obviously Jeremy came in first, but sportsmanship and player's choice went to Tyrell Brown. Best paint went to Jeremy Duvall. Best general went to Paul Chang. Rookie of the year, Paul Chang. Most achievements, Dave Knowles. I guess that's like what Jeremy was talking about, like all the achievements or the special things that you do. And then countercharger, damn right. So big congratulations to Dan.
Big Dan Wright pulled down countercharger. Yeah, him and Dustin Church came in from Portland.
Yeah, it looks like the Reno boys had a good showing too. I see Nick Murray's in third, so Blake Robertson's in fifth. So
yes, so Nick and I ended up on the final table in round 5, playing. Nick's playing, super nasty undead list, But yeah, all the Reno guys did well. So.
But this time, did you underestimate him like you did the last time you played him on UB?
Oh no! He got the full Jeremy, like the full Monty. He got the full shebang. But so.
Did he get the full Jeremy and the full Monty? You put him off his game.
Well, I mean, the game was super close, and the last round was eliminate. Which
that's a classic. I like that. I like that scenario. That's a good one.
Oh man, that's actually that's rough. I when I'm running a tournament, I never do one of those thinking ones last. But that's really interesting when you're when you're both a bit tired.
Yeah, it was just like a super super tight game, super exhausting mentally. But Nick's a great player.
Yeah, we did get a comment. They're asking, are you going to retire the Basileans now that you actually won a tournament?
Yeah, I
guess that's contingent on you painting another army.
Basically, that's the how fast can I get the Twilight Kin ready is the question. So.
I reckon that's smoke and mirrors from Jeremy. He knows the love Basilia's getting in the cock pack, so I don't think they will be retired anytime soon.
Yeah, I think I'll keep playing with them. So,
Jeremy, can you talk us through some of the? So you mentioned rear charging with a non-flying unit. Was there anything else? What were some of the other achievements?
Yeah, so some of the other achievements was win the game but have less attrition than your opponent. So win the scenario, but your opponent has more attrition than you was one.
Like
One was lose the game. Don't get tabled, but have less than 500 points left on the field, which was worth a lot of points. There was a flank charge one, a rear charge one. One was if your special hero character from the tournament, if he killed a monster, if he was the one who did the killing blow on a Titan or monster, you got points. Or if he killed another individual in single combat, in a combat with no one else, you got bonus points. First blood. If in any of your games you killed a unit first, you got to check it off, and then you got those points, and then the person who got the most of those got a T-shirt that said achievement unlocked, so they won an extra award. The person who completed the most achievements.
That's awesome.
And the funny thing is, the guy who won the achievement award also finished in last place and won the wooden spoon. So.
That's awesome. You mentioned that one was worth a lot of points, so they were also worth varying amounts of points, were they? Because some were easier than others.
Yeah, like the rear charge one was worth 3 points.
Uh-oh.
We may have lost them. So
having only 500 points.
You must be in the mountains. Well, I did bring up. We do have the award-winning list here. So, do you want to cut him, Matt? Or is it time to cut? You cut him.
Well, I'll just mute him for now. I'll mute him.
We can go over his list, though.
Can you mute him?
I can certainly try.
3 points. I think
No, I can't mute him. Oh wait, there he goes.
There you go.
We got it now. All right, so we do have.
Sorry, Jeremy, it's just cutting in and out, mate. Yep. So
Basil, you want to take him through the list?
Yeah, okay. So we've got 2 troops of men-at-arms swordsmen, which are, I guess, just his chaff, as well as 2 troops of Gur Panthers. You can't have a Basilian list without Gur Panthers. 2 regiments of Paladin Knights, both with the Aegis Fragment, Blessing of the Gods, and Jesse's Boots of Striding. Okay, 2 hordes of Palace Guard, trying to give them some anti-waver protection with Chalice of Wrath and Staying Stone. Staying Stone's such good value for 5 points, I think.
And
Real
great,
value.
and great on ogres, right? 15, 17. Moving that up
Yeah.
to 16 is a big deal. You
Big
get
deal. Yeah.
hit a lot. Yeah.
Yep. 2 regiments of Alohi, which I think everyone's been trying to convince Jeremy for ages to run them in regiments, and it looks like he's finally caved.
So does that mean that the Spearman Horde is no more? Because it was 3 Alohi,
Yeah, I think
right?
that's
With
gone.
like 7
yeah,
fights.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
I guess he had to rip the old unit apart.
Yep, exactly. Okay, and then Priest not mounted. Okay, so with Conjurer's Staff and Bane Chant, a High Paladin on Dragon, and Samacris. I love Samacris. Such a versatile unit.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately for the Phoenix, just the Phoenix, but better. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
At the same points cost, it kind of means that the Phoenix really doesn't get a look in when you've got Samacris as an option.
Yeah, it's got that small footprint. So like,
Yeah.
and it flies, and it's nimble, and it just has Radiance of Life, and it has Heal 5. It's just like, it's better in every way.
Yeah, this certainly got like talked about in play testing. I can't remember if any change was made, but it's not like either is too good or too bad. It's just
Right.
that they fill the same slot. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And Samacris is probably just better than the Phoenix, particularly because even just the inspiring makes it better.
Well, that and what the Phoenix is only defense 3, right? So this is defense 5.
Yeah.
So and I know the Phoenix has a higher nerve value, but defense 3 doesn't go very far.
No, and like higher nerve value, but not fearless. So
right, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So I think this is a pretty versatile list. I mean, and the thing about dragons is they can pretty much, even if you're not getting them into combat, they can hold a flank on their own, can't they? While the rest of your army gets the job done.
Absolutely.
What do you reckon lying up against that?
I don't like the dragon personally. I'd rather. It might just need it because of the unlock, but I like the other character, the other Alohi character. But
Julius.
Julius, yeah. The dragon, though, he has the breath weapon, which is cool, but it's just so many points, 315 points. And I don't know. It's sort of like, hey guys, you guys shooting? Shoot me.
Yeah.
Right. And so like, you run against that gun line and like, oh, there are 5 cannons or 3 cannons and 2 siege artillery. Let's shoot me. So I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the dragon, but looking at his list though, I think the swordsman, I think he used to run the foot guard, right? As chaff. They're defense 5, but this is a discount, right? So they're still D4, 911. Realistically, these are 911 defense 4. That's the same as a troop of Red Goblin Scouts, but obviously the limit speed 5 is speed 10, but it's 30 points less. So that's good value.
Yeah, what I imagine he's doing here is that he's got the swordsman a chaff for the Palace Guard and the Panthers a chaff for the Knights.
Yeah.
But also got the flexibilities. I've been playing with this recently with troops of the ones you talked about, the Paladin Foot Knights.
Foot Guard, yeah.
Yeah. You've also got the flexibility that you can stick one of those troops in a back corner if you want, depending on the scenario, to like in control to hold it. Because a Def 5 unit at the back there can be quite good, particularly if you hide it behind something. You can force your opponent to come round. So I think they're quite flexible. I'm coming round to troops of infantry, particularly if they're cheap like this.
Well, especially Basilean when most of them are Iron Resolve, right? So that helps too.
Yeah, exactly.
So you didn't pass. I get a wound back. Makes it just that much more resilient.
Well, yeah, and in the first turn when it's close to your healing, you probably get your. You get. Well,
if you got Samacris there, Radiance of Life. There's one. Heal 5. You could probably heal them all back up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's sounds like he had a smashing time. Big success to Ben Stoddard and the crew. I saw pictures of them throwing axes at a axe throwing location. Sound like definitely an event that I definitely need to put on the list. But from what I understand, it's hard to get to. He said, "Yeah." So this is
Yeah.
This is Ben himself. Yeah, I used him to screen his ogres.
Yeah.
Sort of,
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Sound like a great event, Ben. Well done. And we've also got G'day Gad. Gad's always reliable to join us from Singapore, isn't he?
Always. Must be the
Yeah.
perfect timing because we got both of them.
I'd
Him and
say,
Paige.
yeah, true. I'd say he's our biggest fan, but I know he's really just my biggest fan. Thanks, Gad. Yeah.
Well, what have you been working on lately? You know, we've been talking about Jeremy, but I know you've been busy working on some stuff.
Yeah. So I'll take over the share function here. I've been working on finally getting some of my Dragon Empire onto bases. So in theory, this should work. Yep. Okay. So I mean, I've got a lot more than this to take away, but these will primarily be what do you call it? Base aliens at first, but the idea is that they're flexible between the various human armies. So I've got some spears there. So next on, I'll probably get some so another regiment of spears to do up, so I can have the flexibility of having that as a horde. Then I've got my Ogre Palace Guard on the left, and you can't quite see the basing well, but I'm going to so basically it's stones, bits of 3D printed terrain and bamboo, and just some fake grass. I just bought a big fake grass mat off, I think it was off Wish or something, and I just cut it up and glue it down. I do that first, and then I put the rocks around it to hide
So
the
did you have to
edge.
paint the rocks?
No, I can't even remember where I got them from. They were just a mixed bag of little rocks, probably from a pet shop or something like that. All I have to do is rinse them, let them dry, and then I put craft glue down first, and then stack more than what I need on, shake a few off, and then I use I just spray glue over the top. The
water down PVA or something, or a matte medium.
Yeah, I think I'm using the one from Luke's APS actually, the quick dry one that dries clear. Yep, and it holds it pretty well. It holds it pretty well.
Interesting, yeah. I thought you were going to say that you super glued down each rock. I was like, wow, that's a chore.
Well, actually, to be fair, if there's little gaps, that's what I do. So if there's gaps, I'll super glue the gap so it holds.
But that probably doesn't come out on the screen, but it looks like little river stones, which are like very, it matches well with the Japanese aesthetic.
Yeah, and so next, I mean, you can see that sakura tree there. I'm going to play with maybe changing it up and doing some white flowers on next ones as well. And then those barrels on the second horde, they're 3D printed. I've got a fair bit of other stuff to do, and then I've got 2 regiments of Alohi at the back, which are like Worm Rider style.
Right.
They were hard to get to stand up like that. So while the super glue took, but I finished that, and then we've got an Ogre Guard special character. He's probably actually my favorite model so far in the army. And
these are, and we should say these are all the resin sculpts from Titanforge.
These were bought when they were doing resin still. Yep. I'm not sure how many of them they still produce in resin or whether they 3D print. I've just moved on to a Samacris model, which is definitely that I bought off them, which is 3D printed, not cast. And well, we'll just see.
What do you think? What do you think of it? I mean, when you look at the quality, is there a noticeable difference?
It's come up pretty well. I would have said initially that that I definitely preferred the resin cast, but I started painting the Samacris model last night, and it's easy as. It's easy as. But yeah, so I've got a lot more models for this range. So and then I'm printing a scaled down version of another model to use as Julius, and then I'll use the big version as a Phoenix.
Paige, we are all fans of Crocher's shirts.
Yeah, I actually stooped to reusing one I've already used today because some of the others I've grown out of over winter. Yeah, so that's cool. And then also been using our new 3D printer to print 10mm Kings of War. So yeah, we're using Forest Dragon models, and we've printed a bunch, and we're just going to get them commission painted. But they're pretty easy to 10mm is pretty ezy to paint though. You could do it. Yeah, but it's about time. I'm painting this instead. Yeah, we could do it, but Yeah. So we're sending it to someone that paints a fair bit of 10 mil, and
Sure.
so we basically plan to use Kings of War rules, but just War Master bases. And so if you use Kings of War points, we've probably printed 7,000 to 8,000, I would say.
I think that's what I
Point.
have in Varniger, Warriors of Chaos War Master range. I've got about that, and I think collectively we probably have 15 to 20,000 locally. Different people have picked up dwarves or some of the historicals, but it's great. It's just
Yeah.
just regular Kings of War, no magic artifacts. Just go at it.
Yeah.
It's just fun. Yeah, and it
Yeah.
gives you a chance to play at a bigger scale than you would normally play at too.
Yeah, and I think that's and that's what it is. It's just for fun. So we've printed that, get that painted. So it's primarily Sylvankin first, and then we'll print an undead army, and then we'll look at either humans or chaos. Yeah.
Well, I have been painting as well. Let's see if I. So, I don't have any pictures of it, but I did just for the tournament that I just went to. I did just paint basically enough siege breakers, the new siege breaker models to have 4 hordes, and then I painted up 2 boomer sergeants. I took the boomer sergeant and converted them up slightly, a different head and a different gun, just to make the model look a little bit different. Because nothing I hate worse than the same pose, like as a character model. You can like in a unit you can get by with that, but like when you got 2 characters running around, they're exactly the same. I not a huge fan. So.
Well, it's just it can be confusing for your opponent, right? Particularly if you've got items and things. And
exactly. So what I also had was I had some siege breakers. I had some Ogre Palace Guard, and I love these models for a number of reasons. One is look at the model. Look how easy that is to paint. Like I mean, it's all armor, right? So and I already have a ton of siege breakers, but I wanted to do some other units to add a little variety to the aesthetic of the army. So I painted these guys up. They're actually painted up in 2 regiments. I still have to add. I want to like 3D print some big giant tower shields to go on the guys on the left and the right of the front. But yeah, so I mean these guys took literally no time at all. I mean it's just like metal. It's a Reaper metal black. No, I don't remember. Hone steel, I think. And then it's just a wash. Oh, and then there's a little tiny bit of skin, but not much. And then it's just a wash of 50-50 Druchii Violet and Null Black. And you just slap it over the whole thing. And then you go in and I painted some blue and some purple. That's it. So not too, and I think the Siege Breakers I knocked out in a couple days. This took like maybe half a day because it doesn't, I mean, there's not a lot of detail there. I mean, it's mostly armor. You can like you can go full Daniel Reed if you want to, and really do it up. But like the Ogre army, that's not what I'm doing with that army. My army it's mostly speed painted. So I
or are all your others in this really dark tone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so they're all in. Yeah, they're all in like a blackened armor, and then the colors are the skin is like a dusky skin tone, gray, and then it's purples, blues, and pinks. So basically, like the all the cloth and the straps are purple. Typically, anything wood is blue, hair is blue, and then I'll use pink for accents. I probably should go back on these guys and add a little pink, just a little because it's a bright pink. But I haven't done that yet.
And to pick out the cloth, you mean?
Yeah, or just like a specific, maybe a gem or something, just to make it a little spot color, make it bounce a little bit. But yeah, so they are all discolored. In fact, so I painted these guys up, and then today I was working on. I'm almost done. I got one arm left. I've got this guy. This is the new Ogre Warlock, and dude, it's a sweet model. I mean, it's a lot of fun to paint. I don't know how well. Terrible picture on my part, but you can get the sense of it. He's got a lot of movement, which I find really cool. And you may be saying to yourself, why are you painting more Siege Breakers and more Warlocks? Well, I learned some stuff. I went to the tournament at Michigan GT. And, yeah, I learned some stuff, right? Like, and we're going to talk about my list in a minute. And I'm looking to add some more Warlocks to the list. But, this model is great. If you haven't picked it up yet, you really should. It's a resin sculpt. I don't know if I mentioned this. The bases are resin too. So maybe 5 years ago, I designed the bases. I took Sintra, which is like it's a plastic board, a PVC board material that they use at sign companies, and I cut it to the right size. and then I used various textures like this is pine bark and sand, grit to make, and then I cast them in resin. The molds are completely shot at this point, but they still work because really it works for me because you know at the they're pretty. I really need to redo the molds at some point. I still have the originals and actually redo it, but I'm just too lazy. But what I find, go ahead.
No, you go.
No, I was gonna say one of the difficulties I have is that when I go to tournaments, a lot of tournaments say like have questions on the painting rubric. Does the basing have multiple materials? Well, technically, it did when I made it, right? Like I used pine bark and grit and sand and all that stuff, but it's resin, and so I have to usually explain that, and they're usually cool with that. But like I just did it because pine bark doesn't, over time, it doesn't wear well. It chips it, And whereas if you can make it out of resin, you're good to go for a while. So it's just one of those little things, one of the little quirks of the army. They're all the basing is resin, except for like chariots, and those are just MDF with sand down. Sorry,
no. It's no. What I really like about these newer Mantic models, as well as some of the Titanforge stuff that I'm using, is it doesn't have that over the top detail, but it's still so characterful, right? I mean, you look at that model as well as your siege breakers, and like you said, you can go over the top, but you can make something look awesome with minimum effort because the character in the model is so good.
Yeah, and what's interesting is like this model is probably on the extreme side of detail, right? So if you look around his backside, he's got like bottles and stuff hanging. I don't know if I have any pictures of that. Let me see if I can. Maybe I have it in the chat. I can bring it up and see. See if we can. Let's see here. See if I can find here in the chat. But so the Warlock does have more detail than most. But here's the thing. I mean, it's a character model, so I think that's okay, right? I think that's acceptable. I don't know how well it's going to come in. We'll give it a shot. See if I can zoom in. Zoom in a little bit. Oh, I guess I'm not going to be able to zoom in. Anyways, if you see the model, there's a skull here. There's 3 bottles of various elixirs. There's some parchment paper. So there is a lot more detail than on the normal orcs. And I think that's consistent with all the Vanguard range. Thanks, Felix. Just making a comment. Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah,
I like it. It's a great model.
But it's not OTT, right? It's not.
Right.
It's not like some of the. I mean, honestly, I really dislike some of the over the top detail on the new Games Workshop stuff, right? And that's not a Kings of War versus Games Workshop thing. I just don't like that level of detail.
Yeah. Well, if you put it on there, you got to paint it, right? And rank and file in particular. If you have a horde army, just give me a robe with like a cheap belt. That's all I need. I don't need I don't need buckles and straps and armor plating up and down. I don't know. I like models that paint up quickly, and I think those Siegebreaker models that I'm using, the Ogre Prowess Guard, are an example of ones that do paint up quick. I mean, the Ogre models themselves, the regular Ogre models, they do have a lot of straps, but even that, once you get into a rhythm, and as long as you're not trying to like win a golden demon, you can knock them out pretty quick. So. With that, let's spend a couple minutes. We'll chat about lists here. I brought my 2,300 point list from the Michigan GT, and I learned some stuff from it. So those who don't know, I'll just kind of quickly recant the weekend. But basically, I went 3-1-1, so 3 wins, a loss, and a draw. And so I started the weekend against John Carter and his ogres, and playing the scenario where he destroyed the tokens. Race, is that it?
Oh, which one though? The as in, because there's a couple.
The one where they're 6 inch line, 6 inches off the center. Is that?
All right, yeah.
Plunder? I can't remember.
Yeah, I always get confused. Yeah.
But the reality is, this list. I mean, let's just walk through the list first. So there's 2 Red Goblin Scouts, 2 regiments of Warrior Chariots, 2 Berserker Brave regiments. That's my chaff. Everything's a chaff if it needs to be, but that's my primary chaff. And I gave 1 Mead to Madless and 1 to Healing Brew just because I had an extra 15 points, Turns out Meat of Madness is actually pretty cool because that
Mm.
that one has a potential 16-inch charge, which is pretty awesome.
I love Braves.
Braves are great. I just wish they weren't metal. Like, give me some resins, bro. Siege Breakers, 4 Siege Breakers, because you can never have enough Siege Breakers. I know. 2 Boomer Sergeants, which I think this is where I wish I would have done things differently. I mean,
yeah, I mean, you
90
can look at
points for
those with boom.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you're almost getting the output of a horde for a lot cheaper.
So
right?
9 versus 8, right? So you're getting 8, but you're getting on a small footprint that's nimble, which is great. And you're saving points, but it's still 90 points, right? And for 5 points more, I could get a Warlock. Which and if you then you do drain life, and because one of the things that happened and we'll talk about it, is one of the things that happened is when I faced a shooting list, yes, I have Siege Breakers, but once everything else is dead, Siege Breakers aren't that efficient.
No. And one of the things with Warlocks is going to be even more good, so like even better in COC 22 because of the unconditional inspiring.
Right.
So all of a sudden,
exactly.
you've got these. You can be efficient with your characters, and start to make it look more army-like, probably slightly less characters.
Yeah, Mo is like cheese. Absolutely, it's cheese. 100%.
Mozzarella.
Hey, no list shaming here, Mo. We don't. You can't list shame me. Army Standard Bearer with Loot of Insatiable Darkness. That's one that I kind of, I don't know. It's always good to have a little bit of enchant just in case. Oh, the chariots are hindered, or you're hitting defense 6. Even defense 6, you may need that extra. Doesn't hurt to have a little bit of enchant in the list.
I don't reckon you'll want that though in COC 22.
Really? Okay.
And
then
only in terms of because you'll have other inspiring choices, right?
Yeah. Well, that right.
Yes, he's a caddy for Bane Chant.
That's right.
You could make something else a caddy because you won't need the inspiring anymore.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
But and then Namagrok, because he's an inspiring warlock. And what's interesting is the difference is he's got heal 4 rather than drain life. And well, let's get into talk about some of these games. So the first game I played was Plunder against John Carter. He's playing ogres, but basically similar list except for if you took Siege Breakers and swapped them in for hunters, and then he took some shooting. He had a horde of shooters, and he had a couple regiments of boomers. Basically, what happened is he got first turn. By turn 2, he had destroyed all the tokens on my side of the table, which is fine. I play the long game, right? Like I'm here to I want to put you in a bad position.
And so Plunder, that's destroyed as in claimed. Like he got those.
Right, yeah, you claim the token and then they get destroyed. Yeah. So it's 3. You can't destroy the one in the middle, and you can only contest the ones on your side.
It was 3-0 very quickly.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
But then I just slowly whittled it away. And I should mention this Michigan GT had one other character that we all got. It was basically a special chariot, which turned out to be pretty awesome. You get to pick which one you wanted, but the one I had was speed 9, wild charge 1 with Pathfinder. So, but it's not an ogre. So, but still it had 5 attacks and it could really reach out and touch something quickly. It could, it charges 19, right? That's pretty good. But anyways, first game I played John Carter, and like I said, he smashed. He was just kicking my teeth in. Took all the tokens, but I'm like, okay. I'm like, you're not taking units off, and I just slowly bottled him up. Basically funnel him all to my right flank. Left flank was kind of like, oh, I have chariots over there and some bull crap, and basically all the good stuff was on the right hand side. And his big thing was he also had Grakamak and a giant, which are the 2 things in that list that can eat Siege Breakers for lunch. So what I did was I never gave him clean charges. You never got both of those guys in at the same time. And I actually did waver both. I wavered the giant for 1 turn from shooting, and I wavered Grakamak in combat. So I had, I got lucky too, right? Every time I needed a nerve roll, it was right on what I needed to kill it. So when I hit it, it died. At the end of the game, I think he had 1 character model left. No, he had a regiment of boomers. That was it. So, and so I was able to win pretty big, which is a problem in a tournament, right? You don't want to win big in the beginning. So next up, I get to play Shannon Shoemaker, who I think at that point I was 1-2 against. Long ages ago, very first tournament, he raffle stomped me off the table, just shot me off the table in version 1. In version 2, I got him to clock out. Yeah, no, I got him to clock out. He was playing goblins, and that was back in the day when you clock out, you auto lose the game, right?
Yeah, right.
So right, and then I think we played in late second edition his Basilean on my ogres, and they just flew around me and just ate me up. So I was, you know, this time he had shooting, lots and lots of shooting, trombones, the wingets. He had a couple legions of the chariots that shot. And so he did what he was supposed to do. He shot the shit out of me. Like, he just shot the piss out of me. But I did what I was supposed to do, is I kept the siege breakers alive. And I think this one was invade. And long story short, I won because we didn't have a turn 7. I won basically because I had just enough over. So, I'll take it, right? I think had he played it differently, I think he probably would have he was running low on a clock, and so I think he maybe made a bad, I think he could have played that turn 6 differently, where he could have probably had to draw, but he didn't. So it is what it is. So I took that win and gleefully took it, because probably the last time I ever beat him. And then in turn 3, and then game 3, I got to play Jeff Franz, which this was the one game of the weekend that I wasn't really that. This one I was like, it's the Dustin Howard spam list, Northern Alliance, 4 hordes of ice elementals. He had 3 giants, and some characters. I don't remember, some other stuff, but like 10-inch range. Do I really care? And I think, again, everything was on the right flank. He even put all of his giants on the right flank. In retrospect, he should have split up the giants. So the giants got
they're so
up.
resilient, aren't they? They're so resilient.
And so they're not dying, but like the one behind is sort of like, well, I can't do anything because you got me bottled up, right? So this was a big win for me, because it just basically, I gave up stuff, right? I would put something out there, he would kill it with the shooting and the surgeon shenanigans. But then when I counterpunched, I would just punch him right in the face, and he'd drop. Because what I was trying to do in every case is I want to hit you with 2 hordes of siege breakers, or a regiment of chariots and siege breakers, or 2 chariots, and not much can survive to that, right? Unless ensnare, hindered, there are circumstances, but for the most part, as long as I roll well, So yeah, that was a big win. So I'm flying high 3-0, and then the problem was I was in second place going into day 2, far enough behind that if I'm going to win the tournament, I've got to play and I had to play Donnie from Lake Swat Fantasy Podcast. Yeah. And he had the Basilean list, a filthy Basilean list that like auto regenerates a wazoo, And essentially, looking back at the game, I gave him a game because I had to, but I think I went maybe 2 turns too early. I should have waited just a little bit more, because ultimately what happened is when I punched him, I didn't kill anything. It just bounced. And then everything regenerated, and then the counterattack, he just started taking off pieces. And Samacris is great, right? And the heal on the priest is great. But dude, that other what's the other character? The low high character? Joe. He's
the mini dragon.
He's a mini dragon in the flank, just crushing stuff. So in retrospect, we were playing control. So in retrospect, I should have just, just stayed together, hold, and maybe on turn 4 charge, and then limit the amount of actual fighting that they had to do.
Yeah.
But
see, my problem's usually the opposite with my dwarves, because I sit back, conservative, take pot shots at what I can, even though I've got a fair bit of infantry, and just try and control board space. But then I always leave it that 1 turn too late. Yeah. Which that ends up being because they're speed 4.
So it was a hard loss to me, and that I didn't play particularly good. So it is what it is. And then game 5, I got to play Mark Taylor. And if you know Mark Taylor, but he's from out of the Chicago area. He's a great player. He's playing Empire Dust, and he's playing a real shooty list. So playing Dominate, which I like Dominate as an ogre player. The problem with Dominate against his list, he knows where I need to be.
Yeah.
So he's got, he had the traditional, he had two hordes of enslaved guardians, 2 hordes of enslaved guardian archers, 2 legions of chariots, the soul snare, the bone dragon, all the stuff.
Yeah,
that
all the special characters.
All this, everything. And this is the one game, and I was like, dude, I need another warlock. Because I mean, I have heal 7, right? Got heal 4 plus the 3 for Namagrok. And for the first couple turns, I gave him crappy shots in cover. He's moving, that kind of stuff. So I gave him crappy shots, and he was still putting a little bit of wound in. Namagrok for like the first 3 turns was hanging in there. I was able to keep things alive. But eventually, once everything got in range, like the soul snare, it just starts deleting stuff, right? And I need more heal. And I think Drain Life's the answer. So, funny story. This was a draw only because I don't know what Mark was thinking. I think basically I only had a few units left, but they were in the circle. And he had a he could move his Legion of Chariots up, pop his J-boots, and surge him into the flank of one of the units of Siegebreakers, but that meant he's out of the circle. I think he thought, well, I'm going to hit him in the flank, I'm going to pop him, and then I'll reform and put myself back in the circle. And that didn't happen. The Siegebreakers actually held. So, I mean, defense 5 is still not terrible. And I know, I think those things hit on 4s. It's only
hit on 4s. Yeah. The thing about hitting on 4s is generally flanks still aren't reliable.
Exactly. So it ended up being like, and then he didn't kill it. We're like, all right, that's no turn 7. Okay, well then we drew, which was crazy. Because I mean, if you looked up, I mean, I got massacred on the attrition score. I should mention it wasn't attrition; it was just kill points. But like, I didn't kill very much. I killed some stuff, but like maybe like 1,100 points, and he killed like 15, 16, no, maybe even 2,000 points. I only had like a horde of Siegebreakers and a couple characters left. I mean, it was a bloodbath. And I should have mentioned this is a 2,300 point list. So that at the end of the tournament, I'm sitting 3-1-1, and I've been thinking like, okay, I'm going to a tournament in November, the Forest GT. The list will be way worse. There'll be way more shooting. This list right here is not going to cut it.
So scroll back up. So what do you imagine you'll change, and then I'll say what I reckon I'd change.
Well, and I've got some lists where 2 different options that I'm going to show you.
Oh, you've got them there. Okay, yeah.
I do. But I
just want to give a shout out to Mark Taylor while we're on him. He did a lot of heavy lifting in play testing.
Yeah, super nice. And I will say, best game of the weekend, probably one of the nicest. Honestly, I told him after the game, I was like, when you play a game and it's like so clean, there's no rules discussion. It's just like intention, clean. Like that's what I want all my games to be like. Mark your units, make your moves, right? And it was just like, it was a great way to end the weekend. And Mark's super. And if you, I think there's still time. There's Dragonfall GT coming up. I don't know if it's this weekend or next weekend, but it's coming up. So if you're in the Chicagoland area, make sure you go. But so looking at my list, the Boomer Sergeants were interesting because the Boomer Sergeants did a couple things. They're chaff at 90 points.
Yep.
They're also chaff killers. So somebody pops out a Gargoyle unit. Someone pops up like in against Donnie, the dogs, or the Panthers, right? That's a good comment. Welcome aboard. Sorry to
differ. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, that's great. So, but the shooting on 8 with steady aim, shooting 8 attacks steady aim with piercing 1. I was reliably able to get 2 or 3 wounds on something, and if it's 8-10 or 9-11, I've got a puncher's chance to kill some stuff, right? That, especially if I combine it with Namagrok's Lightning Bolt, I could do some damage. But actually, most of the games, it wasn't their shooting; it was the fact that they're an ogre and they're 90 points. And like a couple times, I just sent him into the giant. Get the giant, right?
Why not?
D6 plus 8, right? Okay, you hit on 4s. If you roll like garbage,
it might hold. Yep,
it did against Jeff. It did a couple times, right? And I'm just my 90 against your whatever 200 X points. That's fine. But in the grand scheme of things, I already have enough chaff. I don't really, and I have the 2 troops of scouts, and I have the
You got the
2 Berserker Brave
berserkers.
regiments. So I don't really need this.
But
So
it sounds like you didn't. I mean, if you're charging them in, is that because you didn't have any other options for
yeah, I mean, I
holding
could
them up?
well, I could stand and shoot the giants, right? And I did that a couple times as well. Shoot the giants especially when there was one that was pinned that couldn't get around because it's not nimble. But I mean, I shot what I could, but I just I don't know. It's sort of like it's got the 8 shots. Yeah, well, you're yeah, for sure. So Jay Thacker's mentioning, yeah, I mean, the fact that they score is huge too, right? I mean, that's a big thing, especially in dominate, control. Those are wonderful scenarios.
It's the real strength of ogres, right? It's
right.
You
Well,
know.
and even in my first game with John Carter, I had Boomer Sergeant left, and he's not going to shoot. He's just going to run 12 to a token.
Well,
he's going to kill it.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing about these sergeants is they're not inspiring. So if we look towards Cock 22, you change a base warlock is what, 95 points, and so you get lightning 3, probably lightning 6 at base because you'll always have stuff around them. So you're actually replacing some of that shooting.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So this is the first. I'm going to show you guys 2 different lists. Now, first of all, this is 2,200 points, so it's 100 points less than what was at Michigan GT. But what I'll point out the differences. Instead of 2 regiments, now I've got a horde. Now that's 30 attacks versus 20, right? But 15, 17 nerve to 17, 19. Yeah, it's basically 1 less unit strength, 4 versus 3. But what happened in the games against the shooting armies, they just shot the chariots because they could see them, right? Because they're height 4. And they just shot the piss out of them and they killed them. And there's not a whole lot I could do. So that's a big change there. The other thing I did was I dropped a Boomer Sergeant and I added in an Olga Warlock with Drain Life, and that actually gave me a little bit more points for magical artifacts. And so I actually did Brew of Haste, Healing Brew, and Strider on the chariots. So let's just kind of go scroll through the list. 2 Goblin Scouts, 1 horde of Warrior Chariots. And for the Warrior Chariots, I've decided I've already got 2 regiments. I'm going to do something different. I've got a bunch of these Chaos Dwarf Bull Centaurs from Forge World. I don't know if you ever seen these. I've got a bunch of these, so I've got 3 that are unpainted, and I'll just add one of these. Somebody, I don't know where I got this. Like when you open up your tub of shame, it's just like stuff, right? I'm like, oh well, I should probably figure out how to use these things. Yeah, they're cool models. There's 3 different ones, and I wish I had. There was a leader, like a special character one, which I don't have. It would be awesome if I had the special character. But anybody out there that wants to sell me one, let me know. But yeah, so horde of Warrior Chariots with the Striding Boots, which in my previous list I didn't have anything on the chariots, and there's been times where I had to send them in hindered. This would help. Make them a little bit more reliable when they have to hit.
Well, especially because their footprint's so big, right?
Exactly. This is 4 wide. Berserker Braves, almost the same as before, but now Brew of Haste rather than Beat of Madness. So now you're talking about 12, 14, 17 charge on this unit potentially versus 16. Siege Breakers, that's the same. This is new with Conjure Staff and Drain Life. So we're looking at Drain Life 8, right? Which isn't too bad. Boomer Sergeant, Army Standard with Loot, and Namagarok. So, and then if you look at it, the previous was 100 points more. It only had 26 unit strength, and it was 14 units. So for losing 100 points, I didn't lose that much. But I think I gained something. I mean, this guy, he only inspires the Berserker Braves right now, but Drain Life is going to hopefully, and the Lightning Bolt, right? Lightning Bolt 6.
Yeah, I think the thing for you with this army is, I love ogres.
So good.
On I play in person on Monday nights at a mate's shed, and I quite often drag his ogres out if he's not. But I think about this army, the losing a drop doesn't really matter because your deployment's always going to be your deployment, right? It's the type of list where you're not going to respond to your opponent. You're running your own game with this list. Exactly. So the fact if you get outdropped, doesn't matter, because you wouldn't change anything anyway.
Right. Well, this is the first version. The second version's slightly tweaked on that. Let's take a look at this one. So this one again, Red Goblin Scouts, war chariots. This time for points, no magical artifacts from the Braves. Okay, 4 hordes of siege breakers, and here's where things get a little different. 2 warlocks, both with drain life, 1 with conjurer's staff, army standard bearer, Namagrok. So now this time, no shooters, no boomer sergeants, and now I've got basically 3 warlocks, 2 with drain life and 1 with heal.
This is the list.
This is it, right?
Yeah.
I was thinking 100%,
and it's going to carry you forward into COC 22.
Because they'll drop the inspiring.
And you've changed the boomer shard. You've still got lightning, probably 12 for the first 2 or 3 turns.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've got 7.
Plus nom nom. So
yeah. So I mean, I've got he's gonna have lightning 7, and they're gonna have lightning 6.
Yep. And so lightning 19.
13. Yeah.
Yep. Which at 24 inches is way better.
Longer range rather than 16 shots at 12 inch.
And they're still chaff if you need it, right?
Yeah, and he's making a good comment here. The drain life thing, drain life it's not just helping me; it's hurting you. It's
a good spell.
It's knocking you down a little bit because that's what happens, right? Like if you hit them and you bounce, you lose the game. You've got to kill stuff, and you've got to, I know everybody's like, oh, siege breakers, yeah, but if you hit siege breakers with 2 units of just about anything, you can take them out. There are units, if you only have crushing 1, yeah, that's a bit of a problem. But most armies have some heavy hitters. So what that means, I've got to paint another warlock. And I was telling you in the chat, I have the old metal one that I use as Namagrok. I have the new warlock, which I'll probably use as the one with the conjuring staff because he's got that cool staff. And then I think for the other one, I'm going to use one of the Vanguard models.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
Or what about Pizza Jesus?
Well, that is Pizza Jesus.
Oh, it is Pizza Jesus, isn't it?
Yeah. The one that's already.
You just haven't got his staff in yet.
I haven't put the staff on yet. Yeah, that is Pizza Jesus. And I'll look at it. I have a bunch of them. I don't know if there's a way to really convert it up to make it, because we were talking about earlier with the boomer sergeants. I'm really keen on. I want my opponent to understand what's different. Like this guy is this guy and this guy's that guy. So like if I could do him up, maybe I cut off his staff. Right, and maybe he's just got an empty hand in the other one, and maybe a different head. Maybe.
What about the mother character? Do you use that?
Well, I have the matriarch and I have the paymaster. Those are both. The matriarch.
I love the matriarch as a model.
I just don't know if she would work good as a wizard because she's just got a sword.
True.
But the paymaster's holding up like a sheet, which you could argue could be like a dispel scroll or something. Maybe I don't know. I don't know. I'm thinking about it. I'd love to hear folks' suggestions. Yeah.
Or as Tony that we had on the show once, he likes to say when something goes bad for him, he goes, "I want to play my luck scroll."
That's right. So I'm leaning towards this list. I think you're right. I think it has enough power. I haven't gotten any games in yet with this list, but I'm going to start playing it. We got a couple more.
Can you scroll down for me?
Sure.
Yeah, and do you know what? And I reckon in COC 22 that standard bearer becomes a boomer sergeant.
Because I wouldn't need the source of inspiring at that point.
You don't need the inspiring. So I mean, yes, he's a caddy for loot, but I reckon you'd get more out of a boomer sergeant than you would.
And it's the same. I should mention it's the same. Character. It's the same number of unit strength and the same number of drops as what we just looked at. Because really, it's just a boomer sergeant for another warlock, and by taking the warlock with drain life, it means I lose some magical artifacts. Which I don't know how I feel about that, but because I do like. But I mean, 15 is pretty good, right? Like if you can roll it,
Yeah, I don't think you get enough out of them. I don't think you get enough out of them, though. I think this is much. I think this is much better. Yeah, I mean, Jay's suggesting you could chuck Bane Chant instead of Drain, but I think the value is just a lot higher on Drain, particularly if you're keeping your siege breakers alive.
Right. Plus, the one thing that's really interesting about this list is, Army Standard Bearer is defense 5, and people don't realize, like, yes, he's 11-13, but he's defense 5. So there's been times where dragons hit him. You know, you don't give him a flank, but like you can. He doesn't. There are some times where I surprise the opponent with how resilient he is. You know,
Yeah,
11,
he doesn't
13,
die easy.
No,
Doesn't die
you got to
easy.
hit him. Chaff
Yeah.
doesn't take him out. You got to,
Mm.
you know, he kills Chaff. You have to do something, and he's, you know, as said earlier, it's not a scoring unit. So, yeah, I'm really keen to try this out. Look, I painted up 2 Boomer Sergeants. I did my exactly right. You know, they have to commit something, right? If they want to kill him, like in a game against Donnie, it was one of the special characters that took him out, that flew into him. You know,
yeah. Do you know what? I might actually if I play tonight, I might actually give that list a run. I like the look of that list, but I would yeah, but I would play it probably with the depending what we're on. My gaming group, we're all in play testing, so
right. Well, that would be nice, right? If I have 2 sources of inspiring, that certainly does say I might be able to your point. This could become a Boomer Sergeant with the loot if I wanted. Well, actually, it couldn't be because
no, it'd just be a straight Boomer. So you'd lose your
second source of Bane Chant. Because this would be 95. That would free up 5 points though.
Yep, and also if you've got your 2 Warlocks with Drain Life, you're less likely to need Nom Nom to be using his heal. So particularly when you during those stages when you'd be wanting to use your Bane Chant, so you probably don't need it. Yeah. Yeah, so I reckon that's the go.
Well, that's the play. I'm gonna start play testing it a little bit and just making sure. And I'll have to, like I said, I'll have to paint up another Warlock. You kind of got me thinking I should maybe take the Pizza Jesus model and maybe convert them up. You know, if I take the staff out, that makes it obvious, right? Like, oh, this dude does not have the Conjurer staff. And then maybe put.
Have you got a second one? Do you?
I have got tons, dude. I think I have 4. I have.
You need to send me some.
Do you not have any?
I don't have one.
Oh my god!
But that's all right. But I'm waiting for them to probably flesh out, maybe make the rest of the range look a bit more, and then I really want to do Mantic Ogres.
Yeah. Well, the only thing they really
need
now
to do is you need to thrash the Shitless Wonder a couple of times with this list.
He hasn't been playing much lately. That would be Austin Kerrigan. So
he hasn't messaged me recently.
It's funny because I really thought about long and hard. Well, when I was making the change, should I just change the Warrior Chariots to, take the regiments and combine them into a Legion, and that saves you some points, and then that would let me convert one of the Boomer Sergeants to a Warlock. But I have given him so much crap about Legions and about how long that flank is, and how you're really only getting the 30. What is it? 25 attacks, I think, a Legion is for 300, and I think it's 310 points, maybe. It's just.
I think you have to be elite in the movement phase to make Legions work, right? And unfortunately, that's not me.
Well, yeah, and also that's a lot of points. So the way I played the Chariots in the tournament was they were usually on the flank or they were distracting. Their goal, I have this big block of Siege Breakers, 4 across with all the stuff mixed in. It's just going to move forward and smash somebody in the head. And the Chariots and the Scouts and the Boomer Sergeant's job was to keep that from stuff hitting me in the flanks, stuff from enveloping me. But the problem is, I only have 1 now, so I'll have to, it'll probably be more like, okay, 1's on the flank versus the middle, but maybe the extra nerve on this 1 unit will keep it alive just a little bit longer.
Are your Berserkers in front of your Siege Breakers or your Chariots?
No, so typically, this is a Chris Kapsner special. If you want to deliver the Berserker Braves, you keep them behind the Siege Breakers. You move them up, and on the second or third turn, you pop them out. So they're only out, they're only exposed for shooting for 1 turn before they make the charge.
Makes sense.
He did that to me with his herd army, where he kept all of his beast packs behind the defense 5 and defense 6. And I'm like, that's crazy. That's chaff. Well, the difference is the chaff isn't going to do you any good if it's dead. It needs if its job is to tie stuff up, which is all I want to do with the Berserker Braves. All I want to do is hit a unit and lock it down for a turn. If it dies on the counter, that's fine. because I'm going to counter with two hordes of, siege breakers. I also thought about, I could potentially drop. I could get a 5th siege breaker horde in, but I thought that might be a bit too much. I don't want to be I don't want to be all cheese, right? I mean, it's hard not to like siege breakers, right? I mean,
you got to leave some room for pepperoni.
I got to give you something to shoot.
Yeah.
It's not going to be the siege breakers, right? So, well, awesome. I know we're at time. I appreciate everybody joining us tonight. By all means, if you have additional comments or feedback on my, I agreed. It's a bridge too far.
Yeah.
It's a bridge too far.
Yeah. We'd have to hose him down after every game to get all the dirt off. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, technically, I now have 4 hordes. So I've got a horde that's siege breakers of the Ogre Parallax Guard. I've got my original horde that I made out of. I'll have to take some pictures of it, but basically, it's regular ogres with like giant clubs and big shields.
Oh, and of course, oh, sorry, you just froze a bit there.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, and so Gad makes a good point. So this Wednesday we'll have another release episode in our Clash of Kings coverage. Rob, I think you're getting a little bit of issue. Sorry, you're breaking up.
I'm sorry. Is this the one that talks about Gladestalkers or the one talking about Brother Mark?
Yeah. No, we're talking about Gladestalkers.
Okay, right. Awesome.
Yeah.
Should be good.
So
you're actually going to release some stuff. We're actually going to learn some stuff this time.
Yeah.
Shit, like, I'm going to give you a little treat, but I'm not going to tell you anything.
Well, if you listen carefully, there is stuff in there.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, there's stuff in there.
Well, awesome,
all right.
guys.
Well, thanks for
everybody.
joining us.
Yeah.
Mm.
I'm looking forward to Wednesday too. I'm not a playtester. I don't want to sully myself with these guys. I don't want to ruin of a new Clash of Kings book.
Yeah, true. I tell you what, I'm looking at a copy of the Clash of Kings book right now, a digital one, and it is pretty. It is pretty. I'm not sure if this is the final one, but it is a very good looking book. You won't regret putting your dollars there.
We could have talked about that. People complaining about the price of the book. That was a hot topic this week. We'll save that for next week. So everybody, thanks very much for joining us.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us. All right. See you guys. Bye. Join the club.